let's get into it. Pokemon Presents was today. They kicked off the show with a lot of mobile game stuff. We saw Pokemon Masters, Pokemon Cafe Mix, but the real meat of the presentation that we're going to talk about was Pokemon Scarlet and Violet got a new trailer at the end of the presentation. We finally got a name of the region, the Paldea region. I know that O'Dell was waiting for that. We saw a lot of riding around on the Pokemon like motorcycles. I think a lot of people assumed that's what they were going to be for, and I believe those details leaked as well. That's Koraidon and Miraidon that you can ride around the region on. They showed off multiplayer and revealed that Union Circles is how you kick off co-op play and can play up to with up to three friends. There's also the Terrastalize ability, which gives each Pokemon a shiny crystal form that also might change their type. We saw a Pikachu that can fly, flying type, and knows the move Fly. There's also Terra raids, similar to Sword and Shield raids, returning, where you can catch Pokemon with rare Terra types and do these battles with up to three people. O'Dell, you're the biggest Pokemon super fan here in the boardroom. What'd you think of this trailer?
There's definitely more good than bad. My biggest jarring issue is like, I understand, okay, we're not on a real open world game. Open world games need mounts, essentially, unless you're a superpowered character and you fly or something. And I would have preferred a terraforming bike like we had in Sword and Shield than a terraforming bike that turned into a terraforming Pokemon bike, transforming Pokemon. And the fact that it's the legendary is more jarring to me. It's like this is what we have reduced them to. Like, I mean, they've always been, a story beat, something to capture, but hey, here's the legendary Pokemon of this region. It's a bike, a literal Pokemon bike. Have fun with that. That's a little. It's
interesting that you get them at the start of the game, pretty much, like not immediately, but pretty early. You're going to get this Pokemon to ride around on. Generally, you don't get the legendary until near the very end of the game, like in a big story moment right before the Elite Four and the champion. But yeah, I'm going to assume you aren't going to be able to fight with your Pokemon until end game. I'm going to assume that it'll just be a mount until you reach that point. Yeah, it is a little interesting. It's funny that the one from Scarlet, Koraidon, just runs, and then Miraidon actually uses its wheels. I thought that those looked really funny side by side. And they can also glide, like a Breath of the Wild glider system. You can leap off a cliff and then glide with your legendary Pokemon. Don't know if you could just fly around or if it is like a glide thing where you're constantly moving down. Couldn't really tell that from the brief clip that we saw. But yeah, mounts are important in open world games. I think it's kind of unique that it's with the legendary. The closest thing we've kind of had to this is you did have the Pokemon in Legends Arceus you could ride around on, but in other games, the Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire had the Latios and Latias that you could soar with around a very strange version of the overworld map. So this is a little bit like an evolution of that as well. I don't know. I think it's unique that it's the legendaries. I do think that the wheel design is a little strange when you look at the Pokemon that they're riding around on. Also, if you pair up with multiplayer, you can have like 4 of the same legendary just buzzing around, and that kind of defeats a little bit of the lore behind it, I guess. But yeah, I guess I think it's unique.
Yeah, I mean, based off the trailer, we're going to get into terrestrializing, the new gimmick, sadly. But it seems like, to me, this bike form is appearing like this is the Pokemon like with its potential locked away. And, when you terrestrialize it, they, stand up and look more like the box art and more, quote unquote, legendary and not like a child's plaything. So I'm guessing like at some point, oh no, they were imprisoned in this form eons ago, and now they're unlocked. Now they're back to being some unstoppable creature in the land that whatever. I don't know. We will see. We will see. I want to move away from the legendary thing because it's jarring, but maybe it will make sense. And I want to go into the new gimmick since we've already mentioned it. Instantly not a fan. I like how the little crystal, I don't know if this is Spanish inspired in any way, but like how they look like a crystal dresser. Like, do you remember like in the early 90s, like old people had like these fancy lamps that they were so proud of? Or just back in the day. Oh, like that's what they remind me of. They remind me of these fancy lamps my grandma used to have that I was never allowed to touch. And I'm just like, that's odd to me. But I will say this. I remember when I saw Dynamax and Gigantamax in at first, I was not a fan.
Mm-hmm.
But from a battle standpoint, it made sense and was definitely a lot more balanced than Mega Evolution was. Mega Evolution kind of destroyed battling, but like Gigantamax, that was like, okay, that was more doable. So from a battle standpoint, maybe it will make sense. But from a visually appeasing standpoint, it looks utterly ridiculous. Like,
Yeah.
maybe it'll grow on me. Maybe it's one of those things that, like, once I sit with it, I'll feel differently. But my initial thoughts is like, this is one of those things. It's gonna look cool for some Pokemon, and then ridiculous for the vast majority.
Yeah, I guess I thought it looked okay. Really, the visuals aren't what I have the issue with. I have the issue with that. What now for half of the generations of Pokemon, practically, they have felt this need to shoehorn in some sort of new battle mechanic that essentially always functions in the same way, dating back to what Gen 6, X and Y introduced the Mega Evolutions, which took a really long time to watch the cutscene, and then you basically won the battle in one move, right? That's what a Mega Evolution was. And then you got Z moves in Sun and Moon, and then you got the Gigantamax in Sword and Shield. And now here we are with this Terrastalize in Scarlet and Violet, and it just doesn't. Honestly, the way that the mainline campaign of Pokemon games are balanced, it feels like an instant win button. It really does. You use a Z move, you use a Mega Evolution, you pretty much win the battle in one hit. And I feel like this isn't going to be any different. I do think the design is more creative than Sword and Shield's. Oh, just make it bigger, which is what Gigantamax was. I know they had some of the special forms for a few Pokemon, but largely it was just make it bigger. So I do think this looks a little bit more unique. But I was just to see them still falling back on this crutch of we need to have some sort of mechanic like this. I'm just not a super big fan of.
Yeah, I'm not either, because it's, and especially because you instantly have to throw away the old mechanic, because you can't have these mechanics playing nice with each other. We saw that with Z moves and Mega Evolutions being in the same game, and it was just nonsensical. It was just like, from a just I'm playing the game casually throughout the game. Yeah, it's like almost like an instant win button, and then when you're playing with people, it becomes like this. They become nuclear deterrents in not a fun way. It's just like, oh man, do I want a Mega Evolution now? Because if I do it wrong and then they do it, and now I got to worry about a Z move. It's just like,
yeah,
there's so many layers of, and it's not like I said, it's not in a creative, like super tactical way. It's just like, can I hold out longer than you? Mm-hmm. And then like I said, I was gonna say Gigantamaxing. Since every Pokemon can do it, it became a much more balanced thing. So I'm glad that they kept that. Well, if we're going to do it, it has to apply to all Pokemon, and we can't shoehorn it into some, because then it becomes even worse. And I'm hoping that, it becomes a complement mechanic and not like I have to base my whole team design around it. But we'll see. But well, going forward, I hope they do what they did with raid battles, where like, this is something that's fun, can be integrated, can even change up a little, but still a core thing. Because I saw raid battles, and I thoroughly enjoyed raid battles, so I'm glad they're here. I'm glad they have a unique spin. And going forward, I hope they introduce mechanics like that, like mechanics that can be taken forward and evolved, and not have to be. They're so different and jarring in some aspects that they have to be locked into this region, because there's no way we can evolve them further. So, again, baby steps. I don't think Pokemon, battle system needs to overhaul. No, people are like, oh, I want to do this. No, I feel like, Mario doesn't need to be like, a werewolf transformation, shots at Sonic. We don't need big things like that, but we can change the world in ways that we can evolve on. But we don't know. We just got names. But I do want to say I'm glad we got the region name Paldea. But if you didn't know, there's a famous Spanish food called paella, which is a seafood dish, and I'm pretty sure that's heavily inspired the name.
So let's talk about the story for just a second, because they did spend a little more time on some of these gameplay mechanics, really, than the open world that I wanted to hear about. We did learn that there are 3 different stories to complete, is what they said. And they said that the first story is going to revolve around the gyms and the Elite Four and the championship. And we're back to having 8 gyms, but this time you can tackle them in any order. They did say that there is no limit to which one you can go to first, which one you can go to second, and so on. And then they did not really say what the other two stories are about. But if I'm a betting man, one's about the legendaries, because it always is, and then one's about whatever bad team there is, right? It's got to be that.
I was thinking about that, and I feel like they can go so many ways with it. Because, okay, let's say whoever our Team Rocket guys are, I mean, they could just generically be in the world. And I assume their story's tied to the legendary, because the bad guy stories is, 9 times out of 10 always tied to the legendary.
Mm-hmm.
So I assume those two stories will be, a 1-for-1. What I'm thinking is this third story is we're gonna either we're bringing back Pokemon contests in some way, and there's a Pokemon contest story because people wanted that. That's me shooting for the moon. It probably won't happen. But what I'm going for, this is going to be a new Pokemon thing. This new story is going to involve like because trainers always wanted a way to a non-battle focused way to interact with your Pokemon. And if Pokemon Company is smart, like I think they are, I think that their story is going to evolve around that. Here's a way to interact with Pokemon that isn't battling, where it's, taking pictures. Maybe this treasure hunt thing is a literal treasure hunt. Maybe it's Pokemon contest. Maybe it's like go camping with your Pokemon, bond with them. It will be some type of bonding experience for you and your Pokemon that does not revolve around battling, is my guess.
Treasure hunt would be cool. They did kind of make a big deal about that, right? Your character starts out at a special academy at the beginning of the game. The name of the academy is different, whether you're playing Scarlet or Violet. There are professors at the academy. There's a homeroom teacher. There's different students you interact with. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's maybe a Three Houses type deal, Persona 5 type deal, or maybe there is a whole story that takes place at the school. Maybe that weaves into the treasure hunt that they kept talking about. I do think it would be smart, like you were saying, if they had a bigger pillar of this game that wasn't about battle, because you look at every mainline Pokemon game, they're all, when you get down to it, pretty much just about battling. Yeah, you have some of the other stuff. You have secret bases, you have the underground, you have some of the cool Pokemon beauty contests or whatever that you can do to interact with your Pokemon on that way. But really, it's always just about the core battling. So it would be cool if, as they're growing Pokemon into this open world, if they do take it and maybe take it in a different direction like that. I don't know if we'll see that yet. I don't know if they got a lot of other stuff going on in this game. I'm not sure if they're quite ready to implement something like that. Yeah, we do see baby steps generally with the Pokemon Company, but it's something I'd like to see maybe in this game, or if not in the future.
Yeah, I just think it's interesting that, they took time to focus, like, hey, you have the main, go get your gym badges, become the champion, and there's 2 other stories, and I'm hoping that whatever they are, regardless, whether, it's, clearly the legendary thing, or, contest, camping, the little treasure hunts, school life, that it takes, I want to say just as long, but a good medium amount of time as, your standard gym. It's not like, okay, the 8 gym bash thing is like, the 4-hour adventure, and these are like 30-minute adventures that you can just knock out at some point. I want it to be like, you have to spend substantial time doing these other 2 adventures. Maybe not as long as the quote unquote core story, but significant amount of time. Not something that you're just like, oh crap, yeah, I got to do that to technically beat the game. Let me go, have a cutscene or 2 and call it a day.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see how these 3 stories pan out. If it is like 3 different quest paths that don't revolve around each other, right? Because in the other Pokemon games, it was always like, after you get like the 4th gym badge, there's always like a huge segment with the team or whatever. And it's like, oh, we got to go infiltrate this Team Rocket base now. And they were always kind of dependent on each other, because in every other Pokemon game, the story is linear. So if it is like, nope, you can just do the 8 badges, then do this, or do 3 badges, take a break. And then the big question is going to be level scaling, right? How are the levels going to work? Is it just going to scale? So if you go to the ice gym first, it's the easiest. If you go to it last, it's the hardest. Or is it just going to be like, well, if you want to grind and go to this gym first, you can. Like, I think that'll be something interesting to see how they kind of approach also.
If I had to guess, it's going to be the non-fun way, where it's going to be gated. Like, hey, this guy's clearly the last gym leader in this Pokemon level 70. I mean, we're not going to stop you from going there first, but clearly, you should probably go to this guy towards the end of your journey rather than the beginning. But it would be cool, because fun fact, in the anime, it was actually revealed that gym leaders do that. They base how hard of a challenge they give you about how many badges you already have. Granted, I'm not sure all gym leaders do this, but they'll be like, okay, this kid has 1 badge. Okay, I'm not gonna pull out like, my rock star. We'll have like a 2v2, and these will be like some Pokemon I caught last week.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. That explains things more.
Yeah, they actually address this. So I would love it if it was just like, okay, if you do this Pokemon, this gym leader first, they'll use like baby versions of their type or whatever, their thing is. And I would love it even more if it's cool, like, if you're trying to fill out your Pokédex, like if you strategically wait to see some gym leaders later, you'll see rare Pokemon, for your Pokédex that if you didn't do that, you would have to go find them in the wild and look for your own. It'll be like harder, quote unquote, to come across them. So,
and that'd be cool to see. Like, that would lend a little bit of credit to subsequent playthroughs, right? If you challenge the gym leaders in one order and then you play the game again afterwards and you challenge them in a different order and you see how their parties change and evolve, that could be kind of cool.
Yeah. The ball is in your court, Pokemon Company. Like,
yes, it is.
This game has the potential to fundamentally rewrite Pokemon as we know it while also staying true, which, is probably like one of the hardest things to do in game development.
It is. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. There's still a lot I feel like we don't know, even after this Pokemon Presents presentation. But that's going to do it for our discussion here on the new Pokemon Scarlet and Violet trailer. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to get Chris Shriver here in the boardroom, and we'll be right back, so don't go anywhere.